If you were to write today on the election, what would be your lead paragraph?
I think the lead paragraph has got to be the extraordinary turnout that we're seeing. If you across the board, early voting, in person, by mail. I guess, it's especially interesting in Texas to see that we're just about hitting already the number of voters that actually voted in total in Texas in 2016. We're at about 93% of that number. So early voting turnout across the country, but especially in certain states, is really remarkable.
Brief us on your read-in of the character of that voting and the assumption by Mr. Trump that Republicans en masse will show up the first Tuesday of November. Is that a correct theme, or are we off the mark?
Well, I think a lot of people believe that are watching this very carefully, that Democrats are more inclined, especially in some of those battleground states, especially in the northern battleground states where COVID has been very bad, that Democrats are more inclined to vote by mail. Of course, we know at this point, anybody who's voting by mail has to carry their ballot in. It's too late to send it in through the Postal Service. The Postal Service is simply not moving quickly enough. But we do expect more Republicans turning out on the day on Tuesday. But I think as people are hearing this message that they cannot actually put their vote from today in the mailbox and assume it will get there on time, we might see some turnaround in that. But yes, I think, and if that's right, of course, what we're led to believe, unless we see a Democratic victory in Florida, North Carolina, that this race could then go on for quite some time, because it might look like a Republican lead, a Trump lead early on, and then it might begin to change over the next several days. But Tom, there are a lot of people that think it's very hard to predict how Florida's going to go. It's up for Biden right now. But if it goes the other way, then of course it will take some time potentially to know what's happening.
Leslie, in 8 minutes' time, we're going to get the latest read on U.S. jobless claims, the last before the election. Typically, during election seasons, the economy dominates. In this one, not as much. And actually, President Trump, for much of the race, dominated and was considered to do better when it comes to the economy among voters. Has that changed?
It's really complicated right now. Donald Trump's his ratings on the economy have come down. They're still stronger than certainly by far than his handling of the pandemic or any other number of issues. But I think right now, the pandemic, people are seeing the pandemic through two different lenses. They're seeing it either as a health crisis or they're seeing the pandemic as an economic crisis. So I'm not entirely sure that the polling is actually telling us what we need to know. For a lot of people on the Republican side, certainly amongst Donald Trump's base, they see the pandemic as being a problem of the Democrats trying to shut down the economy. So it's slightly difficult calculation to handle. But of course, the fact that the economy is not doing well, that the stock market didn't do well yesterday, that people are concerned about their jobs, this can't help the president, most especially amongst those voters who are in minority categories, amongst younger voters, and amongst older voters. The first two categories, younger voters, minority voters, are losing their economic opportunities at a much higher rate than others. And so that really affects how they feel about the current leadership.